Hi guys, I'm Ivory and welcome to my channel. So today is my first time ever doing a 3-day wear test, and the foundation that I'm reviewing today is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Weightless Liquid Foundation. For anyone that is new here, I have both oily and acne prone skin, so a lot of my wear tests are geared towards people with similar skin types. I do have a playlist of all the other foundations I've tried. I will link it up here if you're interested. And before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post new videos every single week, and also be sure to follow me on my social media. Everything is _ivorypcherry. Okay, so before I get started, I do have a couple things to say. If you don't really care, then skip to this time. And that start time is gonna be me trying out the foundation on day 1. So today. So I figured I wanted to break up each day to do something a little bit different and then combine the information from the first 2 days into the last day. So how I wanted to break it down is today I will do half my face with primer and then half my face with no primer, and I won't do any touch-ups. So I won't be blotting or powdering. I'm just gonna let the foundation do its thing. And then depending on how the foundation looks at the end of today, whether it looks better with primer or no primer, I will take that information and say it looks better with primer. Then on day 2, I will add primer on the entire face. And then on that day, I will be testing out whether it looks better half with a brush and then half with a sponge. And I'm also going to put powder underneath the foundation to see if it will last longer with or without powder. Having powder under your foundation is an oily girl hack. It does help with the longevity of your makeup, but I do find that sometimes you don't need to wear powder if the foundation is really good. And then on day 3, that day is really to just fill in the cracks, just to see if all of the tricks that I used on the first 2 days, it should look perfect or as good as it's gonna get on the 3rd day. And that is also gonna be the day that I do touch-ups if I need to have a touch-up. I'm gonna treat it as a normal day, like I'm not filming. And that will also be the day that I show the foundation in natural lighting. Everything that I just said about the 3 days, I'm gonna put timestamps in the description box below. I don't want anybody wasting their time here. I want you to have as much information as you can, as quickly as you can get it, because that is how I am. And the last thing I wanted to say is I broke down the 3 days in a way that made sense to me. And if you disagree or you think I should add something that would make this review more helpful, please leave a comment below. And if you are reading the comments and you agree with somebody, please give it a like so that I know that there is some type of consensus. Okay, so on to the product. It's like 13 minutes into my camera, so this is gonna be a hella long intro. This is what it looks like. I don't believe it's at Sephora yet. You can only get it online, so that's what I had to do. It is plastic, it's not glass. It has a pump, which I always appreciate. I always love a pump. This has 1 fluid ounce and retails for $39. So on this side of my face, I'm going to be using a primer. I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. This is one of my favorite primers ever. But as you guys know, I'm in a weird phase with primers because even though I don't deny that a lot of primers can initially make my makeup look better, I don't actually know if they make my makeup last longer. And in some cases, some people think that primers actually decrease the longevity of your foundation. So if it were me, I would choose longevity over having primer look good initially and look better than without primer, but not having it last as long. So the shade that I got is 50WY. I have tried the Urban Decay All Nighter and I am in the shade 5.0, so 50 5.0. I don't know if it translates like that to everybody, but that's how it worked out for me. So you guys know, if you've watched any of my wear tests, that every single time I try a foundation online, I almost never get the right shade, especially if the model is Asian. My kind always backstabs me. They're always way too light or way too yellow. So even when I get matched to a certain shade and then I see the model is Asian, I've learned my lesson twice now. I'm just like, nope, I can't do it. You broke my trust. How I figured out my shade was I went to Sephora and I went to the shade finder. I put in a bunch of my current foundations. So because I put in, I think 5 foundations, I got a certain range. I went from 40 NN to 50 WY. 50 WY was actually what showed up the most for me when I put in my other foundations, so that helped me choose this foundation for me. So to blend out my foundation, I'm using a Juno & Co microfiber sponge. This is my favorite way to apply foundation. It gives me great coverage. It looks airbrushed every single time, and I end up using less product than I would with any other sponge or even a brush. On the box, it says that the foundation is supposed to be flexible, breathable, and have a real skin matte finish. It is a medium buildable coverage and it's not supposed to transfer. It minimizes the appearance of pores and it stays true to color. It's also waterproof and it has a vegan formula, meaning that it does not contain animal-derived ingredients or byproducts. Okay, so this is one layer of the foundation. I ended up actually using about 3 pumps because the foundation is so liquidy. It looks a lot like the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover foundation. And just like that one, this is very lightweight. And in terms of coverage, it says medium buildable. Right now, I would say this is sheer. This really just looks like my skin, but a lot of my discoloration is gone, which isn't bad, but I prefer something more full coverage. I'm gonna go ahead and add a second layer because I do prefer something more full coverage and I also wanna see how this builds up. Okay, so this is a second layer of the foundation. It made a huge difference because this is like the coverage that I prefer. It really canceled out a lot of my discoloration. Ignore this area. I don't really add foundation in this area or my under eyes because I'm gonna go in with concealer, so there's no need to add more product than necessary. I really don't see a difference with it looking better on the primer side versus no primer. Although I will say one thing, on my nose area, it's dry because I'm trying a new acne product and it dried out my nose and especially in the cracks. And on this side where I added primer, it looks okay. It's a little bit dry, I can see my skin, but on this side it like bunched up because my skin is so dry, so that's not super appealing. But that also could be my fault, I don't know. I don't really ever get dry skin, so of course when I'm doing a wear test I experience this, but I just wanted to show you. It also dried down extremely fast. It feels like I lightly set my face and I haven't done anything other than foundation yet. I'm gonna do the rest of my face off camera because this video I'm sure is already going to be super long, so I don't want to make it longer. But I'm going to do the rest of my face and all of the products are going to be in my description box below for each day, even though nobody ever looks in my description box, but I will be right back. Okay, so the rest of my face is on and they were all products that I am familiar with and love, and I didn't have any issues with them laying on top of my foundation, so we're good to go with that. Getting up close, I really don't see a difference between the primer side and no primer, except for this dry patch that I have. It was on both sides of my nose, but more so on this one. So the foundation did kind of cling on to it and it looks kind of crunchy, but I'm not going to fixate on that because overall I'm still really happy with the result as a whole. I'm going to go on about my day and then I'm going to check in around the halfway point to show you how it's wearing. Okay, so we have reached the 7-hour mark. I have not touched up whatsoever. I really don't see a noticeable difference between primer and no primer. I can see in between my eyebrows as well as on my chin that it's starting to get a little bit cracky, but nothing is separating. It's just kind of cracking a little bit. As far as the dry patches, I mean, they're still there, but it's not separating whatsoever. It's just staying in place. So I will be sure tonight when I take off this makeup to just really hydrate the nose area so that I prevent these dry patches. But other than that, look at the rest of the face. Like there's no separating. Everything looks really good. I feel like it's a little bit dewy, but it's not like I'm not greasy. If this was just a normal day, I wasn't filming, I still wouldn't blot. I feel like this is totally fine. There's gonna be a lot of check-ins in the other days, so I think that this will suffice for this one. I'm gonna check in a couple more hours to give a final update for today's video. Okay, so it is now the 11-hour mark. I was supposed to come in around the 10-hour mark. My memory card was in the office and my husband was having a meeting, so I couldn't go into the office. So I had to wait an hour to get my memory card to pop it back into my camera. I am really happy with the way the foundation looks. It is cracking a little bit and I'll get a little bit closer up, but nothing is separated. Honestly, other than a little bit of extra shine, everything is pretty much the same since the 7-hour mark. So ignoring this is my lip color from when I eat. Right here, it's cracking a little bit, but no more than what it was before. Same thing in between my brows. I have quite a bit of enlarged pores, so foundation doesn't always sit very pretty in this area, so it's expected that over time that this would be like the most unattractive area, but it doesn't really look that bad. But as you can see on my nose, here is my flaky dry skin, so it's kind of crunchy looking, I'm not gonna lie, but like everywhere else, it's completely intact. Like even on the top of the nose. I'm gonna go ahead and blot. I will link this product in the description box below. And the reason why I blot and then do another close-up is because sometimes when you blot, the foundation rubs off so much and it's just like patches of your skin coming through and it doesn't look good. But with a good foundation, yes, it will transfer off a little bit, but everything should still look good for the most part. It will look a little bit worn, but it shouldn't look too bad. So that is what I'm looking for. Okay, so I have blotted and I feel way better. I feel like I could wear this for another 5 hours or something. I don't know. Unfortunately, on my nose, making myself matte again really emphasizes the dry skin. It's like very flaky on both sides with primer and without. I almost want to put the oils back in this area because at least it disguised it a little bit better. And on the tip of my nose, I can see my skin starting to peek through, just the hair. But everywhere else, I would say it looks really good. So that concludes day 1 of this wear test. If I could choose between either no primer or primer, honestly, they look exactly the same. I know at the beginning there was a dry patch here and there was less of a dry patch over here, but now they're basically the same now that I have blotted. I'm gonna go ahead and say that you don't need primer for this foundation, which also solidifies my opinion that you don't need primer in general. So far, the verdict on this foundation is it's a hit. I am very, very happy. I'm optimistic. Usually I do 1 day wear tests, and I would say about 95% of the times, whatever my opinion is, I stick to that opinion. So I think I already know what my answer is going to be about this foundation, but you should still keep watching anyway. Anyway, I'm going to take off my makeup and I will see you tomorrow. All right, so now we are at day 2 of this wear test. My nose is prepared. I put globs of Vaseline and I didn't even blend it. I just left it and I went to bed. So it's nice and normal again. All I've done so far is add moisturizer. I'm not going to be priming today. I made this whole thing about how a primer isn't necessary in my last couple of videos, so I'm going to practice what I preach. It's not necessary. We're not doing it for the rest of the 2 days. I am wearing the same shirt because that's the kind of woman I am. It's still clean. I didn't really exercise yesterday, so I didn't really sweat. It smells okay, so like, what does it matter? So in today's wear test, I'm going to be adding powder under my foundation. This is the Dermablend loose setting powder. This is the translucent one. They come in different colors. And with my microfiber sponge, I'm going to put it where I'm oiliest, so on my nose and my forehead and as well as my chin. And then on the rest of the face, I'm going to take like a big fluffy brush and just lightly powder the rest of my face. And this is supposed to keep me shine free for a longer period of time. And once I am powdered down, I'm going to do half my face with a brush and then half my face with a sponge, just to see if one is better than the other. On the brush side, I'm using my Sigma F80 flat kabuki brush. This is one of my favorite brushes to apply my foundation. And on the other side, I'm going to use the same thing that I used yesterday. I'm using the Juno & Co microfiber sponge. Okay, so this is the brush side and this is the sponge side, even though you just watched me do it, but I'm gonna reiterate it. I pretty much already knew what I was gonna like. I prefer the sponge side. I just feel like it makes everything way more full coverage. I don't think this side is bad at all. It's just, it's not the coverage that I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a second layer with one side using a brush and then the other side using a sponge. And then I'm gonna do the rest of my face off of camera since today's wear test is focusing on powder underneath and the 2 applicators. So I don't think there's anything more I need to say that's gonna add value at this moment. Okay, so now that everything is on, the coverage looks pretty much the same. I really can't see a difference unless I'm really nitpicky about it. I more so can see it on the cheek area. It's not a huge difference now that everything is laid on top, so it's not super visible to the eye. Like, would you have even known? I don't think so. So it still looks good either way. I still really like the base just as much as I did yesterday's. I think that for just today, I'm gonna skip the middle wear test because I feel like it looked really good at the 7-hour mark. So I think I'm only gonna do a final check-in at the very end. I will see you in about 10 hours, but in editing time is a millisecond. So it is now 10 hours later, and just like yesterday, I still love the way the foundation is looking. I did compare my face today at the 7-hour mark to the 7-hour check-in in yesterday's video where I didn't have powder. I do feel like I looked a little bit more matte today. That is what powder is supposed to do, so I'm just reconfirming that it's doing its job. As far as the 10-hour mark versus the 10-hour yesterday, I feel like they are very similar. You could probably get away with not putting powder underneath if you don't want to, but I do feel like it helped. I do feel like there's less oils, and I also feel like, don't worry, I'm gonna zoom in. I feel like things aren't as cracky. Yesterday in this area, in my T-zone, those are usually where the foundation looks very weathered. I do feel like it looks a lot better in today's video. I'm sorry, I keep talking with my hands. I feel like they need to be in the frame. As you can see, it's hanging on quite well, and same thing in my T-zone. The only place that there's no foundation is right here. That is because I got this crazy itch, and I was trying to do that thing where you like stab it to make it go away because you don't want to ruin your makeup. Obviously that didn't work, so I just ended up like full on scratching it. That's really the only area that's affected. Everywhere else looks really good. Once again, we're gonna blot, 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 and then we will reassess. Okay, so I actually stopped myself before blotting the side. So this is blotting after 10 hours. And this is just leaving it as is. As you can see, yes, I'm a little bit shinier, but the difference to me isn't bad at all. Getting up close to the nose, it's getting a little bit splotchy. It's very faint. Like if someone's able to notice it, then they are way too close. Everywhere else though looks really good. It looks nearly fresh. So to conclude today's wear test, I did feel like the sponge side gave me a little bit more coverage, but when you layer everything on, it's barely detectable. I don't really see a difference. And as far as using powder underneath, I definitely recommend doing that if you want to keep yourself staying nice and matte, because I feel like I did stay matte a lot longer than I did yesterday. But that's not to say that yesterday's last check-in, like I looked busted or something. I definitely don't think that. I think at the end I still looked great. I just feel like I look more matte than yesterday. So if you liked the dewiness at the 10-hour mark from yesterday, then don't put powder underneath. And if you like how matte I am today, then put powder underneath. So I'm just showing you options here. So that's it for today's wear test. So I will see you tomorrow. All right, so it is day 3 and the final day of this check-in. Based on the other days, I have not primed today, and I also put powder underneath my foundation. I'm sorry if you can hear bugs in my background. They're very loud. It's very rude. Also, my neighbor is cackling like a witch. Whoever he's talking to on the phone, he's having a blast. Go him. I figured since you guys have seen what the foundation looks like initially, as well as what it looks like at the end, that I would do this check-in at the halfway point. So I've actually been wearing this foundation for 5 hours now. In my opinion, I think my foundation looks best at like the 4 to 5 hour mark. When all your oils mix in with your powders and your foundation, it just gives it like a nice glow and it looks more natural. That typically is the peak of my makeup, and then right after that it goes to shit. Everything starts separating, it starts melting. I call it the makeup cycle of shame. You should Google it. But like, don't actually Google it because I made it up. But you guys wanted to see what it looks like in natural lighting, so this is what it looks like. I still really love it. I am in the shade because like if you move into the sunlight, it just looks super, like, can you even see anything? I feel like this is useless. So we're gonna go into the shade. I just wanted to say that although I don't think I'll always be doing a 3-day wear test, from here on out, whenever I do a wear test, I'll be sure to do a clip of me in natural lighting because I do think that is helpful for you guys. And at this point, I think I know enough about this foundation to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I still have to edit the footage tonight, so if anything happens, I'll do another check-in, but at this point, I don't think it's necessary. So I just want to say the Urban Decay Stay Naked Weightless Foundation is amazing. Coverage is great. You can shear it down, you can build it up. It's very lightweight. It's great for oily skin. You don't have to prime. The one thing I do have to say is because it is so liquidy, the amount I use is more than I normally would. With this foundation, to get it to the coverage that I want, each layer, because I did 2 layers, was about 3 to 4 pumps for each layer. So in total, I used about 8 pumps, whereas a more full coverage, a more thicker foundation, I would use maybe 2 pumps each layer. So I'm using 4 layers usually, and now it's about 6 or 8. So there's the drawback of that, but I do feel like this is way more breathable and more lightweight than all my other foundations. So you kind of have to pick and choose your battles there. Other than that, it is a great product. You'll definitely be seeing me use this again. Let me know in the comments below if you like 3-day wear test or if you thought this was way too long and just 1 day will suffice. And if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and feel free to comment down below what foundation I should try next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.